This episode is brought to you by the PowerMonkey Training app. Now, out of all of the cool things that we do with PowerMonkey, whether that be our camps, or our retreats, or in-person events, the thing that I'm most excited about and our team is most excited about is our new PowerMonkey Training app. The new one will have a complete redesign and a lot of cool new features that you haven't been able to access yet. There's really 4 categories of training skills depending on who you are as an athlete. The first one is probably the one that you're most familiar with, are skill plans. How do you learn a strict pull-up, a handstand, a muscle-up? They're all assessment-based. We put you into the correct level according to what your starting point is, and you build plans from there. The couple new ones that we're really excited about, one is our volume plan. So volume plans will be based for those athletes that are learning capacity around skill-specific training. So if you're an athlete out there looking to take that one muscle up and build it into 3, 5, 10, 20, and beyond, we have a plan to help build capacity around skill-specific training. Very, very unique, very different, something that we're new offering, really excited about. Additionally, we have our GPP plan for gymnastics. We call it our monkey method plan. This is a well-rounded gymnastics plan that you can be accessing on a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level. Beginner and intermediate are 3 days a week. Our advanced is up to 6 days a week. You'll be doing handstands, mobility, core work, bar, ring. It's a well-rounded plan around becoming more capable and confident around gymnastics movements. Our last types of plans will be our 365 plans, and these are bite-sized plans that can be incorporated into any training plan, starting with our core 365, something that's been in the app for a while, but a new feature is that we're going to be putting up one workout a day for free on the app. All you need to do is download and register, and you will get a free workout every single day that is core specific, between 5 and 10 minutes long, that you can incorporate into your training. It's a great starting point, and there'll be more of these 365 plans that help create a more well-rounded training experience. Come train with us with the PowerMonkey Training app. We think you guys are going to love it. Welcome to the PowerMonkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Jordan Samuel, and special guest, Margaux Alvarez, multiple-time CrossFit Games competitor, talking about the workout that was just announced, 23.2 A and B, a 2-parter. We go into what the workout calls for a little bit more in depth in the podcast, as well as the performance that we saw from both Roman and Patrick on how they tackle this themselves. Really interesting workout, some new movements, as well as a heavy lift, a heavy barbell for the first time. Talk about how we would approach this and how we're predicting ourselves to do, as well as who we think might hit this one out of the park. Enjoy. Well, let's just jump right in. First off, thank you everybody for joining us again for one of our tips and tricks for 23.2, 2-parter A and B. We have special guest, multiple-time games competitor, Margaux Alvarez. Margaux, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's be great to get an athlete's perspective on this one. Before we jump into some ideas around how to tackle it, let's just go through the workout really quickly. It is, as I said, 2-parter. Part A is complete as many reps as possible within a 15-minute window. 5 burpee pull-ups into 10 shuttle runs. Each of the reps will be counted in 25-foot increments, back and forth. Each round, you will add 5 burpee pull-ups to each round until completion. Each of the 25-foot lengths will count as 1 rep. Immediately followed by 23.2B, which will be a 5-minute to establish a 1-rep max thruster from the floor. The bar can be preset with any weight you want, and you can have assistance with getting that weight on the bar. All right, let's just jump right in. Margaux, there are a bunch of things from the setup, and obviously we have some new movements in here. We have a shuttle run, which everyone was kind of predicting for maybe the first week. Mm-hmm. Overall, just let's start with part A here. What did you think of this combination of movements, and as an athlete, how you plan on tackling it?
I do love it. I know Boz is doing the program, so shout out to him for this. Obviously, the burpee pull-up has been around. I've done it as an athlete a handful of times at Rogue Invitational and other places. So to see that movement in, I think it's great because it's going to come into obviously the gymnastics component, also strength as well, and how you decide to do a strict pull-up or kipping pull-up. And then, of course, the shuttle run, that's going to be great. It's something we haven't seen before, and I think there's a component of deceleration that not a lot of people train or have incorporated into their training. So I think that's going to be a big surprise for people's bodies, specifically knees and their back. As an athlete, I like it. I do love running. I do love burpees and pull-ups. We'll talk about the second part here in a second. But for me, I think attacking it is obviously not going out super hot out of the gates, but making sure you have a moderate pace. For me, I've always been an athlete that looks at the splits. So obviously watching the workout, looking at the split times of both, not only the average athlete, but also the elite competitors and what their splits were, and seeing how their times definitely did slow down a little bit, but seeing positioning in your body. So like watching Vellner versus Krennikov and how their body positioning was, whether you rotate one direction, kind of like a burpee box jump, or do you make sure you're alternating so not one side of the body takes the brute force. So for me, I'm excited for this workout, but I'm also looking forward to see how people tackle it as well. I know that was a fire hose of information all at once. But
No, a lot of good
my
little,
top thoughts.
a lot of things that we can dive a little deeper into. The first thing that stood out to me is 15 minutes. And Pat mentioned this when he was being interviewed. It is long. Like everyone, please, please, please don't jump out of the gate hot. If you, Jordan and I were talking about a little bit, like who do we give the edge to between Roman and Vellner? And I think we both thought that Roman had the edge here because of the length of the workout. I think if it was a 10-minute workout, it's a little bit more in Pat's wheelhouse with his gymnastics background, but pushing it to 15 minutes. If you go back and watch that 10-minute mark, they were gassed. Like both of those guys were ready to be done at 10 minutes and just kind of like push through for another 5. So a 15-minute mark is definitely changes the whole complexion of this workout. Jordan, from your perspective, being a former regional level athlete and like that, anything that stood out to you in terms of just the structure here?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's definitely the kind of workout that's in my sort of wheelhouse in that it's not, a high power output workout. It's a nice steady pace all the way through. It's just a grind. This is a grind of a workout. That's really what it is. Put your head down, get into a rhythm. Like Margaux said, finding that rhythm is key. And I think it even comes down to like the rhythm on a microscopic scale too. Like when you're doing the burpee pull-ups, trying to find a rhythm of how to bring your feet up in the same repeatable way every time, so that when you put your hands overhead, you're not stopping for a second to look to see where the bar is. You need to have that rhythm in placement so that you can just jump and know the bar is going to be there. And that's going to save you huge over time, because there's so many reps here that if you are inefficient on every single one of them, it's going to add up to huge, huge time overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we just talk about something really quickly that is new here, just in terms of the setup for this and the height of the bar? And I know that this is going to be a big point of contention for a lot of people in their gyms. We were seeing it being measured for Pat and Roman prior with Adrian back there, maybe some of the Rogue people, in terms of where the bar needed to be set. The way the standards are set here, it just says arms overhead with thumbs touching, and it needs to be where the bar, you're not touching the bar. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of fudging going around here, like bending of the arms, swaying of the back, giving yourself as much potential, limitation. This is the only time people want to be short, right? Where you don't have to jump very much to be able to get that chin above the bar. And if you notice, like the height differences between Pat and Roman, Vellner's listed at 5'11", Roman's listed at 6 foot. There's a 1-inch difference between the two, but Roman had that bar a couple of inches higher. You could tell that he actually had to go make a further jump, much more of an concerted effort to get his chin over the bar than Pat did. And I think we're going to see a lot of people kind of fudge how that bar is set up just to be able to gain some advantage there. Did you notice this at all? Is this something that is going to be an issue moving forward in terms of the standard?
I think so, because I think back to when we did the handstand push-ups the first year it came out in the open. And it's like you had that standard. You're like, all right, well, my arms are straight, but now my rib cage is really broken. But I think of like myself specifically, I have very, very long arms. So now I need to extend my long arms overhead above me. And now I need to have that standard set. I think there is going to be some difficulty with that, but not only for the elite level athletes, but also the everyday gym goer athlete that's going to come in and maybe they don't have the ability to move the bar. How is that going to work in a gym setting? Then also the setup, like maybe you have a gym that's maybe a little more compact. You don't have the ability to maybe do 25 feet, or maybe it's 25 feet's the max. So then how does that come into these athletes or these communities doing the workout? So obviously there's a lot more components, but specifically with that standard, there's a big possibility of there being, someone not straightening their arms out the way, not able to move the bar, or not having the functional capacity to do that. So then how is that going to change the standard across the board? And as an individual with longer arms, all right, now I need to jump a little higher to get to the pull-up bar versus someone that's maybe a little shorter.
Yeah. And then we heard Tommy and Sean talking about, well, and a mat is okay to use underneath, think about that for a second too. You need the right setup of a mat where you can do a burpee, but then that creates a lip when you're jogging back and forth that you have to now worry about too. When you're doing the runs, I
Yeah.
wouldn't even call them a shuttle run. They're more of a shuttle jog is what's going to end up
Okay.
happening. They're going to be taking your time on those shuttle runs or sprints, but you're going to have to worry about tripping and managing the height of that additional surface as well. So it's just something that I think most people are not really going to be aware of until they're in practice. And you get to the bar and you're like, oh crap, I have to jump 8 inches to get to the bar that's set up in my gym. And if I have put this mat underneath me, it changes the complexion of the workout a little bit.
Yeah,
For
please
sure. And
don't
also,
anybody put like, plates down to jump up onto, because you're gonna get tired and jumping down off that bar. You're gonna roll your ankle. I mean, you can't do that. You either have to just have a bigger
How are you going
jump,
to do a burpee and jump back up if you have just a plate there? You need
but you
something that
jump,
gets
you
your whole body.
burpee to the side and then jump on
Oh
over. I
man.
mean, some sort
Oh
of
man.
weird
That's a
connive
mess.
thing, but yeah.
and also the mat too, like depends on the type of mat you're using. If it's a very squishy mat, now you're jumping, but you're also pushing down. So now the arches and the balls of your feet are getting a little more fatigued and tired, especially again, multiple repetitions. And that 15-minute time frame, it's no joke. And if you don't practice like that, then it's going to be a new element that your body's going to have to adapt to, or it's going to have a different reaction. Maybe your feet are more tired, maybe your knees a little more achy. So then when you get to the end of the 15 minutes and now you need to go lift up a barbell, that's going to change a good number of components.
Yeah,
Might be a lot
absolutely.
of rig reconfiguring going on tomorrow, so charge up your
Oh
drill.
man. Yeah, not everybody has a full rogue equipment team in their gym to be able to call out hard helmets in tow and just chaining things up as needed for each of the groups coming through. Now, if you watch the CrossFit Bison, I love it. It was back in Jersey. It made me miss my home a little bit to be able to hear Tommy talk about his recommendation for the workout, all being Bruce Springsteen songs. Awesome way
You
to
would love that.
to tackle this one. But it was great to see, CrossFit Bison coming in strong there with their members. But it was noticeable in terms of how the first group attacked the pull-ups versus how Pat and Roman attacked the pull-ups, jumping into a kipping action on the first group versus jumping right into more of a strict action, bent arm pull-up from there. This is a point of contention that I think there's value in both, depending on. I don't think there's a go-to route here. I think both of them can be valuable. One is going to be faster, and one of them is going to be fatiguing. The same one is going to be fatiguing a little bit more. So this one's going to be completely dependent on what you think you can sustain with that pace that Jordan was talking about initially. What would you guys recommend here? Jumping into a kipping action to maybe not have to use as much strength, or do you think the single reps over time is sufficient to be able to, clear that fatigue as needed through the burpee and being able to do a strict rep the way that Roman and Pat did?
I think it kind of depends on the individual, the athlete, and the skill level. So how strong you are. If you have strict pull-ups, you might be okay in those first 5 and 10 reps, like the first 2 sets or first 2 rounds, to be able to do that strict pull-up where you're kind of jumping and pulling. But if you start to fatigue and tired, then going into that kipping might be a good alternative to switch right then. Again, it depends. If you have someone that doesn't really have strict pull-ups and you know it's going to be a struggle, going straight into the kipping, even if it's going to take an extra second, that's going to help you later on. So as the volume increases and as you fatigue, you'll be able to continue to do those repetitions at your pace versus having to step up, take an extra breath, then go into that rep. And again, if you're doing that extra breath, extra second over, 10, 15 reps, that's going to make a huge difference down the road. So I think it's going to be tailored a little bit to the individual, but then again, it's also, what is your goal? Are you looking to compete or looking to be competitive in your aspect of your result? Then you might have to push that challenge, that pace, and do strict in the beginning and then incorporate that kip later on.
Any thought around doing a mixed grip or a supinated undergrip for any of these, since it is allowed here?
I mean, if you don't have any familiarity with doing it, then maybe save that for a different day. I think. I mean, if you typically do train with various grips and, doing a supinated grip and doing a mixed grip, then that by all means work it in. But to introduce something new in this sort of volume, I think would be a mistake and it'd probably just trip you up. And I also think it's important to note that you should take advantage of not doing the eccentric portion of the movement as much as possible.
Yep.
I mean, just save. Yeah. I mean, it's going to save you a little time on the drop. It's also going to save your muscles a lot on the descent. And if you can save yourself there, because they're all single reps. That's the beautiful part about this, is like, you don't have to string anything together. So just drop down every time, save that grip, save the arms, and hopefully that'll buy you a little bit more time as the workout progresses.
I agree. I
Yeah,
think that's something. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Margot. Go ahead.
As that's something I noticed between watching both Vellner and Krennikov is seeing how he would just kind of drop from the top. And it's like, you're not working that negative is going to kill your grip and upper body. I mean, you're pushing and pulling at the same time in the first part, and now you need to push later in the second part. So the more you work that negative, the more your body's going to fatigue, the more time under tension that you have, that your body's going to be like, all right, I'm a little more exhausted than I anticipated. But if you get that chin over that bar and just let go from the top, obviously clear the chin from the bar so you don't knock yourself out. But it's gonna be very important because that again, repetition after 15 minutes, that's gonna make a huge difference. And I will note, having a supinated grip or having some sort of mixed grip at the end of the workout, if you're like struggling to like get the last few reps, do whatever it is that's going to get you there. Obviously, if you know you can get that chin up style grip at the last couple reps, get that in to get you one rep closer again to your goal.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. And what I would just add to that, what we were talking about, the negative, the eccentric compression, same thing could be said for the burpee too, especially since that's the pushing motion. It's not just on the descent of the pull up, but we saw this a little bit more with the guys, that they were just kind of coming down more to the stomach rather than lowering themselves down. So if you have some competency around the burpee as well, consider that too in terms of how you come down. Try not to come down through a slow controlled pushing action so you can save a little bit of that muscle from the push for the later on thruster. One other thing I wanted to mention here, just from a technical standpoint, on the Power Monkey side, we preach so much technique when it comes to these pull-ups. I'm always trying to reinforce the idea of a neutral head position whenever we're doing pull-ups, making sure we have a good eye line out in front of us. This is one point now where I would recommend changing that a little bit because of the standard. And we saw this a lot with the guys. Chin up, look up. If it's going to help you clear the bar a little bit more effectively to be able to complete the rep without keeping the chin eye line forward, do it. You know what I mean? There's a difference between understanding how to do it from a technical perspective and application to a workout. But in this case, you will see most people eyes up, chin up to kind of save a couple of inches on their pulling strength to be able to actually get the rep to be completed. So something to consider there in terms of where you're looking when you're doing the pull.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree.
Let's move on to part two. Part two. So we have 5 minutes. Once that 15 minutes of death is completed, you have 5 minutes to it's a pretty simple thing, right? 1 rep max thruster. And
No big deal.
No big deal. We had two very different approaches between the two. And I think if you listen to the little behind the scenes where Froning was talking to Roman prior and coaching him up a little bit in terms of how to approach it, the approach with Rich, which I think was an effective one, aside that Roman's a monster, was to kind of go easy on the first one, just to kind of grease that movement pattern a little bit, rather than go super heavy within that first minute. So we had Roman starting at 135 and then Pat at 230. Very, very different approach. Curious from both of your perspectives how you would approach this first lift going right to the barbell.
So I would have a light load, like I'm thinking 125 because it's easy with the 45s on each side. Get that. I would say actually rest 1 minute. Let me go back and rewind. I'll rest that 1 minute. Again, I think Roman rested about 55, 54, 58 seconds. So give yourself 1 minute to like collect your thoughts, pull up your knee sleeves, add your belt, whatever you might need. And then go for that lift in that 1 minute time frame. And I like the kind of approach that Roman had. And I know obviously you could hear Rich talking to him and the thought process, but to be able to get that easy lift, or again, easy, what's relative for the individual, in that lift in is going to be good to get your body kind of into that movement pattern. You're transitioning, you're going back and forth, up and down. Now you're going to get into the position where you need to be solid in your stance position so you can thrust with that load overhead. So I think it's be very important to have that light, moderate load, and then from there add weight, so that you're getting your body primed versus like, let me just go for kind of a middle, moderate, heavy load and then add from there. My thoughts.
One of the things we noticed here is the number of lifts. We have 5 minutes. I think a minute rest is totally, what most people are going to end up doing to kind of catch their breath, get their heart rate down a little bit. The barbell should already be set. But that gives you basically 4 minutes to kind of get through a few lifts. And if we look at what both of them did, Roman ended up attempting 5 lifts. He missed his 300 at that 5th attempt. And then we saw Vellner try 5 as well, missing 2 and eventually hitting a 270 before he missed 275. That's 5 in basically 4 minutes. Vellner started his first lift at 130. So 3.5 minutes, he did 5 pretty heavy ass lifts. What is 5 maybe too many within that 4-minute period? Should we try and encourage something maybe like about a 3 to 4 max to be able to really maximize your time? It seems like 5 lifts within that 4-minute window might be pushing it a little bit in terms of being able to recover enough.
I mean, I think it's again independent on the or up to the individual athlete, how fast and how quickly your body can recover. And if you've done similar types of workouts like this, my approach is kind of like on the minute, right? So if you take that 1 minute rest, you have 4 minutes. 4 minutes is a good number of attempts, right? Again, depending on how big your jumps are. But my approach is that 1 minute on the minute every minute for those 4 minutes. They'll give you plenty of attempts. And again, it just depends on the individual. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna go do this workout earlier. I'm gonna live stream it. People can check out my YouTube and see a different approach if they want. If they want to come watch me, die in those 15 minutes and then go for that lift. But I think one, knowing your body, how you're going to recover, and also knowing what have you done in the past and trusting your training and process. So you've done XYZ leading up to it. Believe in that, trust in that, depending on if you have a coach or not a coach, or you have a group class going. But I think that 4 lifts in that 4-minute time frame, if you are resting that 1 minute, it's huge. I think in the beginning, people get excited. You're like, oh man, I hit it. Then I'm going to go for the next one. And like, it's been 30 seconds. Like, give yourself a little more rest. But I think it's that adrenaline that we get excited as individuals, also the competition or the competitor us, and also the time frame it's counting down. So it's, again, finding that balance is important, but also knowing what you can attain and accomplish.
I think it's a little bit challenging for like the mental side of an athlete that in CrossFit has always had to do this sort of a format and change their own weights. And now they don't have to do that. So it's like, what do I do with myself? I got to go. I got to do another lift. It's like, no, just take a second, let your heart rate die down, just hit the lifts. And to your point, you don't have to do 10 of them. I think, like Dave said, 3 to 4 is a really great number to hit at most. And if you have another one in you at that last second, like you saw Vellner and Roman, they picked up with whatever, a few seconds left, but there was no rest between that 4th lift and the 5th lift, so they probably shouldn't have even bothered attempting it.
I think you could look at it kind of like a bonus lift. Like I think the rule, what they stated is as long as the bar is off for the ground or moving, right? So say it, 457, 455, you pick up the barbell, you power clean it, you get set, then you go into the thruster. So again, you're giving yourself a little extra time, even if it's a couple seconds, that will allow you to get set, then you go into the extra lift. And again, it's a bonus lift. You get it, awesome. If not, well, at least you tried and attempted. And you never know. I think that's where those firsts in the open are really exciting, because we talked about getting the first muscle up last week. Well, this week, it's like, you might hit a PR after all this work. It's like your potential is on tap. So it's kind of exciting, I think, in that aspect where you think of it that way. It's like, ooh, a bonus lift. Everybody wants a free bonus, right? Like, ooh, coupon, free gift. I'll take that.
I think it would be,
here you go.
Yeah.
Jordan was upset that not upset. I don't know. You can state it how you want it, Jordan, but that maybe it wasn't a higher level gymnastics movement in there, a burpee bar muscle up, or maybe a burpee pullover. I think maybe we're leading towards seeing one of those movements in a semifinal, or maybe at the games this year. I would love to see a burpee pullover as the next iteration of this burpee into a pull type movement.
A burpee pullover?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Burpee pullovers.
Basically, what I was saying was that if this workout had a higher skill movement, like a burpee bar muscle up or a burpee pullover, that I would have given it to probably Pat. But in the format that we had here, it was just a straight workhorse event, and that's where I thought Roman really shines.
High volume burpee pullovers, if you've never done them before, are
disorienting.
It's like, yes, it's like being put into a blender. It's like being put into a blender. It changes the component quite a bit in terms of where the fatigue point is. But I would love to see an athlete do
fatigue is in my brain.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of rattling around. All right, really quickly before we get you out of here, and Margaux, you run to the gym to give this one a try, and we can all check it out on your YouTube channel. Some predictions here. Anybody that you think stands out as someone that might hit a home run in either part A or part B?
Ooh, good question. I know Mal O'Brien did really great the last first open event, so I could see her doing really well in terms of the capacity. I think in terms of big lifts, in terms of names, I'm not sure. There's a couple of handful of athletes I think could take the top lift, but I could see up to maybe like 230, maybe. And I don't know if that's cutting on the shy part. It's females, not so much the males. That female, maybe 230 is the max lifts, around, again, 230-ish plus or minus around there. it's going to be interesting to see. I think time frame wise, like Roman got 6 full rounds plus I believe it was 3 burpee pull-ups. So when we were talking, we were testing, I was like, man, like 6 rounds, that's going to be a solid score plus a couple extra. And again, it's dependent on where you are on that 6th round of like how many more burpee pull-ups do you want to get and how's that going to set you up for the next component, right? Part B. So I would say that 6+ is going to be something that's going to be a staple at the high, like top level for the first component.
Jordan, what do you think?
I mean, I think Emma Carey is probably going to do well on the first part of this again. She's a workhorse, as she showed this past week. I think on the second lift, I could see like a Danny Spiegel or Amanda Barnhart really throwing up some ridiculous number. And then I think even though it was his first, he was like, learn the workout and do it right away. I think Roman's score is going to be right up near the top. I mean, that's kind of where he shines. Yeah.
Awesome. I would just what you say, Margaux. I think this is Mal's to show off in part 1. I think she's gonna kick some ass in that first part of the workout, and then Danny, obviously, someone that can definitely show off her strengths in part 2. On the guy's side, I think this is a Justin workout, like head down grind, wrestler mentality type of a thing. You don't need to be a good runner. You don't really need. You just need to be able to suffer, and I think he's in that world. Someone that can sustain it. And then obviously I would love to just watch Guy put on a show and just lift something that is just mind-boggling to the rest of the world to think that a human being is capable of something like that. So it'll be fun to watch. I will say that last week I had Emma and Vellner, so it was like first and third, which is pretty good on predictions. But I mean, you're talking about a handful of people that really have a legitimate shot of winning this workout, so it's not that impressive.
What about you, Margaux? What do you think you're going to predict for yourself?
I had a feeling that was coming up. So actually, I was just thinking, athletes that train out of different planes. So when I was training CrossFit, I was doing a lot of like very like same plane, right? You're in the same plane, you're up and down, clean and jerks, muscle ups, you're in the same plane. And as I started to expand outside of CrossFit, like as I started training for American Ninja Warrior and doing stuff like pole classes, dance classes, I was like, wow, I'm so uncoordinated. But I didn't realize like I don't do a lot of like transverse movement. Only when I started practicing more for my long drive golf was I actually, all right, this is a quarter extremity movement, which is what we talk about in CrossFit, but there's a lot of transverse that I'm kind of weak at, or my mobility and range of motion is a little bit less. So for those athletes, I know we're getting to myself here in a second, but for those athletes that do train outside this, I think it's gonna be very beneficial because it's that transitioning side to side for the shuttle runs and how much wear and tear it takes on your body is gonna be important. If you incorporate any backwards walking, backwards leg drag, anything that's gonna help build up the back of the knees or train that deceleration is gonna be important. So if you have included that in your training, awesome, congratulations. If not, it might be something you wanna add in for those athletes out there. For myself, I've done a lot of backwards walking. I think that's great. It's gonna be helpful for myself in terms of the transitions. For myself, I would love to be able to get to those 6 rounds in the first component. And then for that second component, for the thruster, I'm going to go for 205. That's what I'm hitting for. So,
Dave, are you going for 205 as well?
Is that like $2.50 that I'm going to spend at the 7-Eleven afterwards to buy my Slurpee? It's very possible that I'll do that. I don't know. We'll talk about part A and then see whether or not I survive for part B.
What about you, Jordan?
I am going to cheer on people at the gym, and no, I don't know. I really love burpee, pull up, burpee, bar muscle up, those types of things. Like usually when we would travel for stuff, I would always try to get Dave to do a workout that had some sort of a burpee. Actually, the most recent workout we did at the Masters Fitness Collective, it had burpee bar muscle ups in it. And I love that movement. I don't care if I do well or not. I just love grinding in a workout in this style. The thrusters can be whatever. I don't care about those either. But
you did beat me in that workout, Jordan. There was a bike component, which I'm miserable out. But I did, let's just make a note. I beat Jordan by 1 rep on 23.1. So let's just make a note of that.
The worst part was I had 4 minutes to do the muscle ups. Dave had like 14 seconds and he still got 11 muscle ups and only got 10.
What?
Yeah, the muscle ups. That's why I was like, can we put those in the beginning, please?
Yeah, right. Can we switch the order?
But yeah, so we'll see what happens. We'll both be giving it a try. Margaux, we'll keep posted. Where can everybody find the YouTube channel so we can follow along?
Yeah, so it'll just be Margaux Alvarez. I'll put it up there with some tips and tricks. I'm gonna go film it. We'll do some quick edits and try to get up by tonight so everyone can tune in, watch it, watch me get after it, and then hopefully I can help them do their best effort on 23.2.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, one other quick note I noticed that I just want to make a recommendation on is using grips on the bar. You didn't see Roman or Pat using grips in this particular workout with single reps. And burpees hands on the ground. I would actually recommend not using grips on this unless it's something where your hands are already torn up. I think it can actually end up creating more of an interference type of a thing rather than a benefit, since we're not doing high volume, repetitive high volume. So, throw those victory grips on if you need it from like a hand protective standpoint. But if you're able to, I would recommend kind of staying away from it on this particular workout.
Also adds extra like width from between you and the bar.
It always does. Yeah. You don't have as much of a connection. So those are our thoughts, everybody. Keep us posted on how this one goes for you. Can't wait to see what people do in terms of setting the standard, but we'll be back with 23.3 next week with another special guest. Margaux, thanks for the time and good luck on this one.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You got it.